This is the second of 5 weeks for unlocking the wisdom of the Ganges Mahamudra. On the class thing that you logged in on, there's a link for course materials. There's 3 PDFs that you can download and print.
Sorry, Jumper, that's what I was meant to say. I can only stay for about 20 minutes, but I'm catching up with the recordings on YouTube.
We will miss you. Good. Okay, well, I guess it's 10 o'clock. So first, of course, before we do anything, of course, check up your motivation, because that's creating who you are moment by moment, week by month, by year, by lifetime. And that's what we really want to focus on, because that's how we slowly become a better person, or a more capable person. And of course, I like to think of it in terms of chemistry. For example, let's say you think, oh yes, I'd like to become enlightened. You know, it would be wonderful, more better with myself, less stress or something. There's a certain chemistry in you. Now then bring to mind, for example, people you love, and that even actually include your pet. You know, so you bring to mind your pet, and there's a feeling of love inside of you. So, oh, I love my pet, or I love my family, or whatever. And then say, I'm attending this class for them. There's a whole different chemistry in your body, and that is karma, of course. And so therefore, there is something very special in having a feeling of, let's say, bodhicitta. That's the grandest version of having that feeling of love. But as Trich Rinpoche said, start off with family or people close to you, so you generate an authentic feeling, and then expand that to all sentient beings. So with that thought in mind, we are attending the class for the people in our lives, and for all sentient beings. And with that thought, then we take refuge, and I'll just do a prayer that I like. I go for refuge from now until enlightenment in the Buddha Dharma Sangha. I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha from now until enlightenment. I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha from now until enlightenment. I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. And I guess if we wanted to make it really official, mandala, and I'll do it in Tibetan, sorry. Saji, Bogi, Joji, Midoda, Riraliji, Nido, Yambadi, Sangajing, Mingde, Puarti, Drogananda, Chilla, Georgio, Yidam, Guru, Ratananda, Abnidu, Taya, me. Okay, so remember, this is a very abbreviated presentation for the Ganges Mahamudra, but it's a really wonderful text. But as a preliminary, I want to focus on some basics. And I introduced them last week, but I just want to touch them again very lightly. That the foundation of what we're doing is the 5 aggregates. And the form aggregate includes all physical forms in the universe and your body. They're all included. And then the other 4 are your mind. So when we talk about investigating the nature of reality, you can do it on the basis of the 5 aggregates. Okay, you don't have to think of something external to that. It's just, okay, 5 aggregates, that includes all physical forms, and then the aspects of my consciousness. Okay, so that's the so to get that very clear. Second point is then that as a bodhisattva and a bodhisattva vehicle, they were first focused on the investigations of the nature of phenomena. There's what's called the analysis of phenomena and the analysis of sense of self. So bodhisattva first focuses on that. Why? Because they want to have more ability in working for the benefit of sentient beings. If you focus on the sense of yourself and analysis, then you arrive at the nature of reality, voidness, the empty of self-existence. That's great for you, but it doesn't mean you have any particular feeling for anybody else. So bodhisattvas really want to make sure that that happens. And I believe it was Chandra Kurti in the Entering the Middle Path that said that if a bodhisattva or if a person with a lot of good karma analyzes reality, the phenomena, then very spontaneously they normally generate bodhicitta. Okay, so that's something that's anyway, that's to take into consideration. So second point, we are in the bodhisattva vehicle. We're paying. Let me turn off my phone. This is the second time this has happened. Really ridiculous. I have to really do this way before on. Okay, got rid of that. Second time, I can't believe it. I guess karma. So I've broken the interdependence with my cell phone. So anyway, so 5 aggregates. Then the Mahayana point of view is work for the benefit of all sentient beings. And then again, just really briefly, I mean, the Chittama or the Vaivasikas and Sautantrikas actually were very intelligent. They just said the universe is a play of atoms, just atoms, and atoms are the final reality. That's the ultimate truth, is that atoms are the smallest particle that exists and such. And we in the West, we have that understanding. You know, I mean, we understand everything, just, you know, play of dynamics, electrons, and all those sorts of things. You know, I mean, it is common sense. But I mean, to think 2,500 years ago, they understood atoms. Okay, and then the Chittamatrin or Yogacharya school, mind-only school, really unbelievable. I mean, I think all great meditators will agree that the mind-only school, the world is nothing but a reflection of your mind, is an incredibly powerful tool. And it's just, I mean, look at the room around you, and what you're only seeing is a reflection of what you understand. And so if you know the objects, you understand, oh, that's a picture of my mother and my father, or that's a chair, or that's a thing. And even if there's something you don't know, you just register, you reflect it as, oh, I don't know what that is. So you see, everything is just a reflection of your mind and such. So that's a very, very powerful philosophy. Many yogis use that because it's really good. The only thing, and again, we're not, the whole object of this is not to be overly philosophical about it, analysis of time, does past time and future time apply, or things like that. We're just looking really just a simple idea for us as meditators. So anyway, the Chittamatrin school, Yogacharya, very, very good. Really gives you are the possessor of your experience. You are the owner of how you experience things. And that's powerful. It's not like, oh, that person's ruining me or that person's a problem. No, you're reflecting off of them. Then there's the Madhyamika, which just moves a little bit, and I think of it as a little bit more subtle, and is that the Yogacharya school says that your mind has an existence. And the Madhyamika just goes and says, no, both outer and inner phenomena are empty of independent self-existence. So they just make it that the mind also is a play of interdependence. Now, one thing that happened when I first, was in India, and this is 1971, Geshe Nawan Dargye was teaching in the Tibetan library with Sherpa Kumlam Tulkul, and that was actually, there's quite a few of Gavin Curdy, Glenn Mullen, a bunch of us that were there, very originals that were there. It was really, very beginning time. And Geshe Dargye said, oh, it'll be very hard for you to understand the voidness. This is not an easy subject. And so at the time, of course, we all just said, oh, yes, that must be true. But the thing is that Geshe Dargye, and I mean, it's not a criticism, it's just in Tibet, unless you became a monk or a nun, you did not get an education. Maybe your aunt or uncle or somebody taught you how to read and write, and so you've got a little bit proficient that way. But you did not have a general public educational system. I mean, that's just, it wasn't there. If you became a monk, then of course, then you learned lots of things and you got educated, but again, in a particular tangent. And so what Geshe Nawan Dargye had in front of him was, I think all of us had at least 12 years of education and in multiple facets, let alone some of them had been to university for 5 or more years, like Alex Berzin or Jonathan Landau. I mean, they were all professionally well educated. So their brains had been exercised. And that's the point is that, well, one thing with education is, what does it do to us? It makes us think. And we have to think about things. We have to think about science. We have to think about math. We have to think about English and grammar and all those different things. And think of it again, come back to, for example, if you're in Tibet and you're, a regular Tibetan person, you're either a farmer or maybe you're a business person or something like that. you're not challenged to think about things. I mean, I'm not generalizing. But my point was that Geshe Dargi did not understand that we were all well educated. Now, he did to some extent, but not to the degree. And I say that simply because understanding the voidness isn't that complicated if it's done well. We are well educated. So on the basis of that, then, the next thing I introduced for you was the idea that, then fourth point, I guess, is relative perspective, ultimate perspective. Okay, if we follow Nagarjuna's philosophy, he says that if you understand interdependence, you understand the nature of reality. And if you understand the nature of reality, the voidness, you understand interdependence. They are not contradictory. And we're going to bring that up in a few seconds in one of the verses of the Lama Chopa Guru Puja. So in regards to this, then, today we're still focused a lot on relative perspective because it is not contradictory to the ultimate perspective. In fact, the better you understand relative perspective, the better you'll understand ultimate perspective. Okay, they work together very well. Okay, so the example traditionally in analysis of phenomena, remember, because we're in the Bodhisattva vehicle, is to sort of see that things are not independently self-existent, that they're merely labeled. We're primarily in the Madhyamika point of view, okay? And so therefore, I merely suggested that as Westerners, and with our education of just the way things work, that relying on the atmosphere and our body was a really good basis for that. Okay, because traditionally it's a chariot, and it's a chariot, the wheel is the chariot, the I don't know, whatever other part of the chariot or the car you want to identify. Okay, and that's you do appreciate, you come to that car is merely a mental label, and any of the other components you do again just mentally label on a play of interdependence. But to have a more, let's say, a less intellectual effect is that you take your body right now and you are immersed in the atmosphere. It literally is touching you on every part of your body, whether it's your feet, your arms, your thighs, your stomach. We are like fish immersed in water. And so just bring that to mind. Like I'm right now immersed in a big tank of water. Okay, but it's the medium is thin, it's atmosphere. Okay, so that, and again, you can even apply it to then the temperature of the atmosphere I'm immersed in, the humidity, or whatever else you want to apply. But the second thing, so that's immersion. The second thing is penetration, though. With literally every breath we take, we are penetrated to a cellular level. I mean, and then it's just the incredible magic of the human body. But take a breath, and then my lungs know what to do with that, and they take the oxygen out and get rid of the bad airs and whatever else, and then they pull it into the blood and mix it with the blood, and then that gets pumped to the heart and feeds the heart to make it stay alive so you don't have a stroke, and then it goes all through your body, and literally every organ and even your skin is continually fed by the oxygen you breathe. In fact, I think it's like within one breath, I believe it's something like 30 seconds, that oxygen has met your toe. Isn't it incredible? I mean, again, you can look up science on some of this stuff if you want. I'm sure Google has all sorts of information. But the point is, okay, so just sitting there, again, I'm immersed, and I'm penetrated. And you just breathe, okay? And so that's basic mindfulness. But now you're applying a wisdom to that. And that then is relative perspective. I am completely interdependent with the atmosphere. And again, if we look at the traditional sort of approach, I mean, if you talk about wisdoms, everything, and again, everything is impermanent. Okay, yeah, we all understand that. Everything is always changing, but it's not arbitrary. It's changing due to a continuity of causes and circumstances. Okay, that's a wisdom. That within that continuity of impermanence and continuity of causes and circumstances, everything is interdependent, and then we can say everything is empty of self-existence. So those would be 4 steps of a wisdom consciousness. So just sitting there, everything is impermanent, that makes you wise. Or as Lama Yeshe's described it, he said that what is wisdom? Wisdom, well, the example is wisdom keeps you cool. Okay, it stops the heat of anger or the intensity of passion. Everything's impermanent. Now, that could be made extreme, of course, like nothing's important, but no, it's just things are always changing. Your mind stays cool with that, calm with that. That if something's happening, it has causes and circumstances. Again, that's an intelligence, that's a wisdom understanding. So if something's happening to you, it's because there's causes and circumstances within this flow of impermanence. It's not just arbitrary. Like if I end up with cancer, it's not like, oh my God, why did I get cancer? No, there's some cause and circumstance for it, or whatever, whatever might happen, So that's the second wisdom. So again, if something starts to happen, it's not like, why me? It's like, okay, it's just some cause and circumstance for it. Okay, and I can change that. I can put new causes and circumstances. So it's not, again, apathetic. Oh, this is my karma. So okay, I can be dynamic and change things. That's a wisdom understanding. Then those are quite linear. You then move to interdependence, which makes it more holistic. And so rather than just being, okay, like everything's changing, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, and there's causes and circumstances, one, blah, 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 like that. No, it's a universal ocean of interdependence, all interdependent, okay, so it's holistic, okay. So again, so that's a wisdom understanding. Now, it relies on the previous two very much, but the thing is, okay, I'm sitting in this room and like I said, I'm immersed and penetrated by the atmosphere. With every breath I take, I can have an appreciation of that. You could say that the reality of me sitting here breathing and being immersed and penetrated and such like that, that then we bring our intelligence and we bring them together, okay? And that becomes a wisdom consciousness, correct understanding of how I exist, okay? Then the final thing though is that this is, you could say, relative perspective with an appreciation of ultimate perspective would be that, okay, if everything is equally interdependent, how can one phenomena be exaggerated or elevated above another phenomenon? No, they are all equally interdependent. So therefore they are empty of self-existence. And so that becomes the fourth wisdom. You can say fourth wisdom, empty of self-existence. The ultimate perspective, open like the space of the sky, which we'll discuss a little later, or relative perspective, a universal ocean of interdependence. And that's universal again. And I mean, how you say we have what is it, the newest telescope, not just the Hubble one, and I can't remember the name of the other guy, the Alex Fraser telescope or something like that, that it sees I think millions of light years into the space and time. And that's really intriguing. I mean, actually, there's something really beautiful that the Buddha said. He said that, and it comes in many of the sutras. For example, in the Diamond Cutter Sutra, it says like, as many grains of sand there are in the river Ganges, there are world systems with sentient beings in this world. Now, Buddha Shakyamuni said that, and then of course in different sutras it's used in different ways. But I mean, how many grains of sand must be in the Ganges River? Okay, and now we have these huge telescopes. And the universe is huge. I mean, there's not just, there's billions of galaxies, which then have billions of solar systems within them. Like, whoa, so we are in a universal ocean of interdependence. Again, we have the luxury of having a knowledge base of that, compared to, for example, I mean, in India, 2,000 years ago, the world was flat. Mount Meru was the center and the sun had moved around Mount Meru. Like those, okay. Well, we have science is very beneficial. Even the Dalai Lama says that the analysis of science is very beneficial to our Buddhist practice. Anyway, so coming back to the thing is that then we are in a universal ocean of interdependence, third level of wisdom, and then finally, okay, everything is empty, open like the space of the sky, because it's all equally interdependent. But that is an ultimate perspective of reality, open like space of the sky. Relative perspective, universal ocean of interdependence, okay. And again, we understand that, we've got the planet Earth going around the sun. I mean, it's now becoming for us, most of us in the northern hemisphere, it's getting cold. Why? Because the position of the sun is changing, Earth is changing to the sun. I mean, we all know this, we understand this. So we are well educated, and understanding interdependence is not that complicated. And then, again, with quantum mechanics, we have Matthew Ricard and those great people like that who are doing really good presentations. I mean, there's anyway, Buddhist philosophy, the lotus and the quantum mechanic or whatever. Lots of good reading there. So bottom line is that we are on a relative perspective of the nature of reality. I am immersed and penetrated in the ocean of, well, the atmosphere, but that's just an object. Now, what's intriguing is that if you look at the psychological benefit of that, is that if you do that regularly, like that you allow yourself, you bring to mind, and again, this is an approach to understanding reality. It's important to put it in that perspective. Okay, we're not talking, we have more refined details, but on a relative way of just helping us approach, we put our mind to the atmosphere, and then you have the reflection of I'm immersed in this and I'm penetrated in on this. Okay, so it comes quite easily or naturally within you an appreciation of I'm not independently existent. It's a fairly easy one thing. Now that when you're in situations and you bring to mind that I'm immersed in an ocean of atmosphere or interdependence or such like that, because your mind moves to an object that's not sense of self, it gives you maybe a perspective on your sense of self. It helps you be more flexible and adaptable, which is what a bodhisattva is. They try to be more adaptable and flexible in helping sentient beings. And there are so many weird and crazy sentient beings out there that, bodhisattvas have to be unbelievably adaptable to help all these different sentient beings. So, point then, that we bring to mind, or we let our mind touch atmosphere, and then the inclusion and the penetration arise into mind quite naturally, and you're in a much more of a wisdom state of consciousness. Okay. Now, why I'm putting emphasis to this is because it builds a foundation to move into an ultimate perspective. And again, we're going to have 6 examples from the Ganges Mahamudra that we're going to talk about. And in those 6 examples, they're basically going to let's say, establish this, okay, or verify the analysis of reality. And again, Mahamudra is a meditative text, okay? But if we do it in the manner that I've just described it as sort of a Western person, well-educated, maybe it's a lot easier for us to digest, okay? So as you continue to listen, and this is what's intriguing is that, okay, you've touched that you're in the atmosphere, you're immersed. I mean, it's 100%. Every cell of my skin is needing to participate with the air in this room, or otherwise it would die, or I would die, or whatever. Okay, so that's a reality. Okay, so you bring that to mind, and then all you have to say is, well, I'm hearing Jampa's voice because I'm interdependent. And then I mean, you can even move it to saying, well, and I understand what he's saying because when I was brought up, I was, my mother tongue potentially was English, and my mom and dad helped me learn language and things like that. All this vast ocean of interdependence, it's just incredible. Like, wow, I mean, it gives you goosebumps if you get it right, like, whoa, okay. Now, one other small comment is that we can have what's called disengaging Buddhism and engaging Buddhism. And these are just some points, but a Hinayana approach is a disengaging Buddhism. You disengage from samsara and you gain liberation. So you disengage, so to speak. It's a word. Engaging Buddhism is the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva vehicle. So although you do disengage from your samsara, you engage because you are interdependent. May I be of benefit to sentient beings. So it's an engaged state of consciousness, of course, with the correct appreciation of reality. So in regards to the, I said it's like if you look at reality and you get a bit of some sort of a thrill with saying, wow, I'm interdependent, the component that you should add to that is that then, may I be of benefit? I am interdependent, well, may I be of benefit? And the example could be and what's sort of intriguing is if you took a stick of incense and you light it, the incense doesn't have to think about I'm going to go to the north or the south or the east or the west, or I'm going to do something. The incense just has to be incense, and it will make the room slowly, by interdependence or whatever, smell nice. So the same thing, if you put your mind in, may I be of benefit, you are interdependent. Now, how you exercise that is the intelligence of being a bodhisattva. But the point is that you just have to be authentically of the nature of benefit, and with intelligence, of course. And you're in harmony with reality, and you're a bodhisattva. You are engaged. Okay, so just small points. Sometimes they're quite interesting. They just sort of put our life a lot more in order. Okay, so we're now going to start to shift over to the ultimate perspective on reality. Okay, now it's not contradictory to the relative perspective. Now, at this point, I put in the chat, maybe some of you can't see it, but I put in the chat 3 lines that come out of the Lama Chopa. And although I'm not yet into the Ganges Mahamudra, I want to put a really good foundation on our basic Buddhist practice. Most of us, I guess, are Gelupa with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, but it really doesn't matter whether you're Nyingma, Kagyu, Gelu, Sakya, or whatever, Wan even. The thing is that we have our particular philosophy. So I'd like to put a little bit of emphasis to Lama Tsongkhapa. And again, this is from Lobsang Choki Gelton, who wrote the Lama Chopa. And so it's the 3 verses. It's in the chat. And again, well, it should be there and things. So the first is, we seek your blessings to complete the perfection of wisdom. So I'm sorry, in Lama Chopa, there's the generation of the field of merit, then the accumulation of merit off of that, then the receiving of the body, speech, and mind blessings of the gurus, and then there's the graduated path to enlightenment. And in the graduated path to enlightenment, in the Lama Chopa, it comes to the 6 perfections. And in the 6 perfections, we're now on first the perfection of wisdom, and then 2 second verses that Lobsang Choki Gelton put together with that. We seek your blessings to complete the perfection of wisdom through the space-like yoga of single-minded placement on the ultimate truth, conjoined with the ecstasy and great bliss induced by the discriminating wisdom of suchness, analyzing suchness. Now, just a quick comment to say that the ultimate point of view, remember that if everything is equally interdependent, nothing is a little more interdependent, nothing is a little less interdependent, everything is equally interdependent, then if you touch that, an example could be is like everything became one color. Now, you are focused on the nature of reality. So you have to drop individual items, okay? You can take any individual item, the computer screen in front of you, but you're looking at its nature. And in this case, you're looking at its ultimate perspective, its nature, empty of any self-existence. It's involved in a universal ocean of interdependence, where everything is equally empty of independent self-existence, and everything became one color. And so you can't see any one phenomena. It's just all one color. Now, in the teaching, in space-like, again, we'll get into a lot more details on this later, but it's just basically open like the space of the sky, clear light, okay, not any colored light, just clear light, okay, and your mind rests in that. So that's the space-like yoga of single-minded placement on the ultimate truth, the ultimate nature of reality, conjoined with ecstasy. Okay, that's maybe a little bit harder, but okay. So that's the first verse of the first verse we touch on. Okay, space-like. Then it comes to relative point of view. We seek your blessings to perfect the samadhi of illusions by realizing how all external and internal phenomena. Now that's a Madhyamika philosophy, because remember, in the Chittamantra or Yogacharya school, external phenomena are false, but the mind has truth. In the Madhyamika philosophy, external and internal phenomena equally are empty of independent self-existence, okay? So all external and internal phenomena lack true existence, yet still appear like a mirage, a dream, an image of a moon in a lake. Now, the traditional example would be that in Tibet would be, or in India even, a magician, due to smoke and mirrors and mantra, is able to produce the image of an elephant. And although the elephant's not really there, it looks like it really is. All we have to do is to go to a 3D movie, It's just incredibly good. I mean, we're so lucky that we have these things, you know. So, you know, you have your special glasses you put on and you're sitting there. And I went to one where they were doing with sharks. And it was really thrilling because, you know, I mean, you have your glasses on and this shark, you know, boom, 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 comes out and literally swims above the crown of your head and goes back in. And it's like you really get goosebumps on that one. Okay. Okay. So you have that, and then you just lift up the glasses and there's no shark there. But you put the glasses back on and the illusion really is real. It's really like gives you sensations. Or you get those ones where like you're there's one that's I think it's even if you have one of those what do you go those virtual reality lens things, and you do one with someone climbing a mountain. Oh, I can't watch it. It makes me ill. But again, you know, you have those on, you lift them up and no, there's nothing here, you know. Okay, so we exaggerate phenomena to be more real than what they really are. So they are no different than a 3D movie image. Okay, now that one we can go to a movie theater and we can experience that. So it's not something that's beyond having a physical, visceral experience of. Okay, but it doesn't mean that that's the illusion is not it's not a something. No, it relies on causes and circumstances. Me sitting in this room rely on causes and circumstances. So that's where you have to understand, or where it's good to appreciate that understanding the voidness is not a nihilistic point of view. Nothing exists. It's rather this really good appreciation of a vast ocean of universal interdependence, and everything is open, empty of any independent self-existence. So it is a play, well, it's impermanent. It has continuities of causes and circumstances. It's all interdependent, but it's empty of any independent self-existence. Okay, so like that, then you have the okay, it's like a mirage. Okay, it's like a 3D movie dream. You know, you have this fantastic dream, and you wake up, and it's all disappeared. And I think the example is like you dream that you're, you know, in the forest and they're with a horse or something like that, and it's so nice, and you're touching the horse, and then you wake up and there's no horse in your bedroom. It was an illusion. But I think the 3D movie is a little bit better because it does validate causes and circumstances and interdependence, and yet it's an illusion. Although we might believe it to be real, we know if we lift the glasses up, it's not real. So like that. And the image of a moon in a clear lake, that was great. You know, like, and if you at nighttime, if you've got a really cool flat piece of water or something like that, or even like a swimming pool, I guess, and you get the reflection of the moon in it, it almost looks like you could go into that other dimension, like go into the lake or the swimming pool, and you've got this whole universe of the stars and the moon. Okay, it's an illusion, but it looks like it's real. Okay, but again, I think 3D movies are really good. So that's that verse. And then the final verse in that of the Lama-chopa is samsara and nirvana lack even an atom of true existence, yet cause and effect and dependent arising are non-fallacious. We seek your blessing to discern the importance of negativist thought, that these two may appear in agreement and are not in mutual contradiction. So those three verses are the best for us. It gives us ultimate perspective, relative perspective, and then an understanding of that our ultimate perspective is not contradictory of the relative perspective is not contradictory of the ultimate perspective. Perfect 3 verses, okay? So if you study those and work with those, it's really, really good. Now, let's come back to, again, these are preliminary classes for the Ganges Mahamudra, which most likely will start next week. Okay, so we have 6 examples in the Ganges Mahamudra in the first part of the text. Okay, and we will talk about those. But to arrive at that, so I've talked a lot about relative perspective. I'm in an ocean of interdependence. I'm immersed. I'm penetrated. I like to add, let's see, 5 things. Okay, this is totally a Jampa thing. Okay, so we have that things are impermanent. We have continuities of causes and circumstances. We have everything is interdependent. Then I just like to say everything is open, empty of self-existence. It just helps my mind a little bit. So when I look at somebody who's really angry or upset with me, I think, okay, you're open. you are open to being influenced. You are open to being benefited and helped as best as I can, you know, because you are empty of any self-existence. So it's a little bit less than sort of somebody who's angry saying, you don't exist. that wouldn't work very well, would it? You know, you still get terrified by the angry person's face. So instead of that saying, okay, you are open because you are interdependent and because you are continuity of causes and circumstances. You have some delusion that anger is a good technique, and then also you're impermanent. So because you're impermanent, I don't need to get upset because things will change. You have dynamics why you got angry and why you're, you know, frothing at the mouth and stuff like that. Okay, because you are interdependent and because you are open, then you know you are empty of any self-existence. Okay, so just those five. Again, I just added one. They really help you become flexible in our life. Because remember, we are Mahayana Bodhisattvas. It's not just self-liberation. Maybe we be a benefit. So we've covered that really well. Now, again, so we're in a universal ocean of interdependence. Okay, and now we're going to just shift to an ultimate perspective of that. Okay, if everything has the nature of being interdependent. Okay, so your mind touches the nature, everything is interdependent. That's like one color. Okay, everything becomes that one color, then you can't see anything anymore because it's all just white. It's all just thing. But that's a color, so make it clear light. So here's a couple of examples to help you sort of get an idea on this one. First off, okay, you look at your computer screen and then bring your attention back about 6 meters or something like that, or sorry, so 6 inches or something like that. And that point that your mind is on is clear light. Why? Because you can see through it. Okay. Now, it might be yellow light because of the light bulb or clear light or whatever, or cold light. I mean, there's different types of light bulbs we have. But bottom line is, clear light is that it doesn't obstruct you seeing something. It's just something to put into your mind a little bit. Okay. Clear light. Okay. So that's something that might help a little bit. Again, we're now looking at trying to get a meditative experience of the ultimate truth. So we have the basic idea. Everything has the same nature. It is all interdependent equally. And because of that, it all has one nature. And that means is that how can any one phenomena appear more than another phenomena when you're looking at the nature? And so that then becomes open like the space of the sky. Okay, empty of any independent self-existence. Now that doesn't mean that things, well, okay, so you're looking ultimate perspective because your mind shifted to the ultimate nature, not the relative nature. Okay, now, and for me, what I like to do, and this applies a little bit if you practice Tantra, and especially if you do the death, bardo, rebirth in the Anuttara class of Tantra, is to try to have a position in consciousness that sort of gives you that sense of spaciousness. So I like to think of it as 30,000 feet in the sky. Now, again, this is something that didn't exist very easily for people in Tibet, but hey, most of us have flown in jets and we've been at 20 or 30,000 feet. So just imagine yourself that you're in a window seat of the jet at 20,000 feet. It's the daytime, it's a clear sky, there's no clouds, okay? So you let yourself look out in your imagination, look out the window and you see clear sky, you know, because you're really high up, okay? And then you let your plane and the body keep going and you let your mind stay in the clear open space of the sky. Okay, so that helps you get this sense of open, empty space of sky. Okay, now there's refinements to that, but we're just we're trying to build up a foundation, a meditative foundation for an experience of reality. It's an analogy, but the point is it does help us move towards an ultimate understanding of reality. So come back to, okay, I'm in a jet, I'm at 30,000 feet, you know, I'm sitting in my chair, I'm sitting in my first class seat. Okay, let's give ourselves a nice seat. And then we look out the window of the jet and we see lots of big open clear space. And then we let the plane and our body keep going, but our mind just stays. And then we're in that open space of the sky and we rest there. Okay. Now that's the start. of where you can say, okay, complete openness, like space of sky. But there's one thing that to be added to that is that you are sort of, I mean, it said in relative perspective, we have a dualistic mind, subject and object, okay? In the ultimate perspective, it's a non-dualistic experience. Now that differentiates us, for example, from other religions, because other religions have, for example, God is the ultimate, and you can't become one with God. You are, I don't know, under the creation of God or something, whatever they want to call it. It's a dualistic religion, me and God. Buddhism is non-dualistic, okay? And then Shankaracharya in Hinduism in a certain thing, I had non-dualism too. But anyway, so we are non-dualistic. So in my trying to arrive at an ultimate perspective of reality, I need a non-dualistic perspective, okay? Now, something else to take into consideration is, and this applies a little bit to if you're a Christian, that the ultimate truth is God, okay? There's nothing more than God. God's the ultimate truth. It's the ultimate reality, okay? So, I think it's pretty easy, okay? In Buddhism, the ultimate nature reality, there's nothing else after that. It's the ultimate nature. And so therefore it is an experience of consciousness, because we can become enlightened, Buddha mind or whatever, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it, the thing. So it's really quite important to say, this is ultimate nature. There's nothing else after this. This is a place I can rest. There's nothing sort of secondary. It's just, this is it. I mean, the example in Buddhism is that fat Albert doesn't eat in the daytime, but he's fat. So you're only saying half of the thing. Fat Albert eats at night, because you're saying fat Albert doesn't eat in the daytime. Okay, so in this case, though, that's not what we're doing. We are arriving at an ultimate state of consciousness, a non-dualist state of consciousness. So when you then look at, for example, let's say, okay, you've arrived at, I'm at 30,000 feet in the open space of the sky. It's just an analogy, but it might help us to be a little bit more free of any relative point of view. But then it is sort of, I am dualistically looking at open space of the sky. And then you might get some panic because you think, oh my God, where's my parachute? Like that happens. Okay, so instead of that, you say, no, I am not looking at open space of the sky. I am open space of the sky. Okay, so you could say, me in this analogy, but the fabric of the space of the sky. So you try to rest in being the fabric of the space of the sky, which sort of applies that there's a substance there. But the point is, it's still you're moving your mind towards an ultimate experience, and we need some analogy to be able to do it. I mean, even actually in the first verse of the Ganji's Mahamudra, I mean, it says that the ultimate reality is something that cannot be expressed. It's beyond conceptuality. Okay, but that doesn't mean we can't build up something, a bridge that gets us to a non-conceptual state. So come back to an experiential state. So again, we've discussed quite a bit relative perspective. I'm in a vast ocean of universal interdependence, okay? But everything is equal in its nature, interdependent. Therefore, it's open, empty of any self-existence. I just got to the ultimate perspective. Okay, nothing is appearing to my consciousness. It is clear light. Okay, and within that clear light, to help me have an analogy, I'm at 30,000 feet. The plane of my body kept going. I am open space of the sky. And then I am not dualistically looking at open space of the sky. I am non-dualistic open space of the sky. And again, like I said, you would like that. I am the fabric of the space of the sky. Again, but again, you are putting something to let your mind rest on, but it helps a little bit to get you closer to reality. Okay, and then if you could, then you just say, empty. I am just that. I am. My consciousness is that. Again, in Anattara Yoga, you would be the Dharmakaya, without form. And again, in Anattara Yoga, you would be the most subtle level of consciousness. So that's where, again, it's the ultimate level of consciousness. It is the ultimate truth of consciousness. But again, that's in Tantra. So if you don't have those initiations, it doesn't mean you can't still do this. It's just understand or appreciate, okay, I am that open fabric space of the sky. Okay. So there you have then ultimate perspective on the nature of reality, that I touched the nature of the universal phenomena, and they were all equally interdependent. And when I touched their nature, everything evaporated, and I arrived at open space of the sky. Okay. And then within open space of the sky, I am not the observer of open space of the sky. I am open space of the sky. I am empty of any independent self-existence. Okay. So that's the that sort of sets up again the foundation for when we move into the Ganges Mahamudra. And again, my point being is that just I'm not contradicting anything that's done in a traditional way. I'm just reformatting it a little bit from a more modern point of view. Again, so if we just review what is a more modern point of view, well, we do appreciate everything is just a play of atoms and molecules and stuff like that. So there's our Vaivasika and Sautantrika philosophy. We can certainly appreciate that I'm only living in a projection of my mind. Everything is just a reflection of my mind. That's pretty easy to get to. I mean, again, I mean, like, as I said in the first class, I mean, fall in love with somebody. You're just falling in love with the projection. Only later do you realize what they're really like, and hopefully you were lucky and got a good person. Okay, but anyway, so there's the only reflection of my mind. But then that says that external phenomena are not truths; they're false. But in the mind is truth. That's the Chittamantran school. Whereas when you move to the Madhyamika, they say no. Everything internally, externally is a play of interdependence, which actually the Chittamantran school did agree with. It's just that it is merely labeled. And that applies to both your internal experience of your mind or the external phenomena. So that's Madhyamika perspective. Okay, so those are philosophies. And again, we have enough analysis of science to sort of say that they're, well, is this, quantum mechanics and stuff that it basically looks that way. Okay, so we have that. Then within that, then we're going to move to say Madhyamika philosophy principally, that I am a universal ocean of interdependence. Okay, I am immersed in the atmosphere. Again, this is just an analogy to help you get to that position, that I'm immersed in an ocean of interdependence, no different than a fish in water, that my medium is thinner. Okay, not only am I immersed, I'm penetrated. Every cell in my body needs the oxygen. So therefore, again, my mind appreciates, okay, I'm like a sponge in the ocean, a sponge deep down in the ocean. We're just full of holes and everything, the water goes through it on all sides, all things like that. So I'm like that a little bit. Okay, and then from that, then that's relative perspective. Again, you can breathe, you can inhale and exhale. The whole idea of I'm immersed and penetrated, I am empty of any self-existence, but it's relative perspective. Phenomena are still appearing, but they're only relatively labeled. Again, if we come back to Lama Chopra, then we can say, just as if in a 3D movie, it looks like the shark came off the screen of the theater, but in reality, we know it didn't. We just have to lift up our glasses. So like that, although phenomena appear very real, we are just exaggerating their truth. They are a play of interdependence. They are a play of causes and circumstances. They are always changing, but they're not truly existent. They're dynamic, you could say. Okay, so we appreciate that in our perspective of in a relative perspective of being immersed in an ocean of universal interdependence. Okay, and so we just breathe that. It helps our mind. It massages our old attitude of being independent, self-existent, like a rock. Okay, it's not true. We can breathe through that. That's basic mindfulness. Again, and with appreciation of how we exist. So we start to say, although there can be, there's a I mean, if it was just air and then there's the tissue of the lungs, but they're independently existent, then we're going to be dead. No, so take a breath and then just, it's magical, it seems, but the air penetrates the tissue of the lungs and transfers over to the blood. And then, wow, just so magical. So I am an open system. Empty of any independent self-existence, relative perspectives, phenomena still appearing, but like that. So I then breathe out for a little while, and then I shift over, okay, well, if everything is equally interdependent, There's no one thing that's more or less interdependent. Then I've touched the nature. And as soon as I touch the nature, everything evaporates. And I have the ultimate perspective, open like the space of the sky. And then the analogy was being in a jet at 30,000 feet. And the jet, my body kept going. I'm in open space of the sky. And then I'm not observing the sky. I am one with the sky, like the fabric of the open space of the sky. Again, analogies to get you closer to the experience. And again, that's where we're then going to move to Ganji's Mahamudra. So this class is actually about 50 minutes at this point, but that's the material I wanted to cover today. So both of the classes, class 1 and class 2, are preliminary for the Ganji's Mahamudra. And again, we're going to move into the 6 examples and then the other things that Tilopa had to say, the Naropa. Okay, now I can open it to questions. There's only 6 of you on class right now. So for those of you that watch it later, you won't have that opportunity. But Patrick and Medina and Slovej and Phyllis, you can ask questions if you want. So just unmute yourself. Patrick already unmuted himself. So you have a question.
Actually, thank you for everything. I don't have a question at this time.
Okay, well, thank you, Patrick. Anybody else have a question? Lou, I missed you, Lou. Sorry. Again, it's just if you, it's just something that thing. Again, this preliminary. I think it's sort of, as educated Westerners, we have a good intelligence that we can exercise in understanding reality.
I just wanted to mention, like, it's rather a commentary, not a question, that I really like the idea, and I heard it for the first time, of this disengaging and engaging Buddhism. So it really hooks me today. Thank you for sharing this.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm a translator, or at least I used to be. I've been in Mexico for 20 years, and there's no Tibetans here, so I can't translate, and I've lost my ability, although I can still listen a little bit. But one time I was translating for Geshe Tashi Namgyal, who's a Sakyapa Lama, and you know, this is I can't remember the detail exactly, but it's something like I said. You know, he said, you know, okay, no, someone asked a question, and the question would be something like, "The cat is black." So I turned to Geshe Tashi and I said, you know, in Tibetan, I said that the gato is, or that's in Spanish, sorry. Okay, the cat is black, okay? And he looked at me and then he started talking about something else. And I said, okay, no. So I went back and I said, no, okay. Again, and I very clearly translated the word for word. And again, Lama Tashi didn't get it. So I said, at a certain point then, because we tried it for about 3 times, that then I just said, okay, and I said, I rephrased the question, and then the answer came right. So, okay. And then I realized that he didn't have that concept. Now, it might sound funny that you can't have a concept of something, but in his language, the way I said it, there was no concept for it. Now, the best example I have that is, for example, I went to Fiji back in the 1990s, okay? And then for the Fijian culture, there's no self-ownership. They live in a village and everybody owns everything. So for example, I could show up at Patrick's house, you know, in Fijian society and sleep on his couch. And Patrick would have no concept that I was violating his personal space. You have to understand, there's no concept for them that you had personal space. And I could go in his clothes closet and take a shirt. You know, I mean, it's almost inconceivable for us, but in Fijian society, that's the way it is. And so it's said that when, for example, Fijians get involved in a capitalistic system and open a store, that the Fijians from their village will come in and just take things off the shelf and walk out the door because it's part of their culture. Okay, so why I'm saying all of this is that there are some things that are in culture which just do not translate or not appreciated or understood. Whereas in our culture, we have certain things that we say and we get it because it's part of our culture. Now, I can't really come up with specific examples, but the point being is that there are things that are within our cultural understanding which will work very well in, for example, in analyzing reality, because we have the cultural format for it. Whereas for a Tibetan, it wouldn't have been so easy for that, or for someone in India 2,000 years ago. Okay, so it's just a side commentary about it. So yes, engaging and disengaging Buddhism, we get it right away. Whereas maybe in a Tibetan language, I wouldn't even know what you'd say in that. But it's, anyway, for us, we get it. We go, okay, understand. So we are engaged Buddhists, and I like that. Sort of like when you engage first gear in your car, you know what you've done. Okay. Anyway, so I guess that's good. So we're at 55 minutes. So great. As I say, I really wanted to when I talked to Losang, I said I don't want to do a traditional teaching. Now I'm not going to be untraditional, but I want to teach it from what I call an intelligent Western point of view. I can't say I'm the most intelligent, but the thing is I've got some experience. And that's what I wanted to do. So the basis of this class will be, it is traditional. I mean, I can think that all the things I've talked about are quite, realistic and valid. It's just they're not part of a traditional presentation. But I don't want to deviate. I don't want to get new agey about it or something. No, I'm sorry. I'm a rather traditional Buddhist. But it is good to go and exercise our imagination. So for example, a 3D movie is a perfect example of that we exaggerate an illusion and make it real. We exaggerate it. But if we understood it, lift up our glasses, we immediately understand it's a play of laser light and other things like that. It's a causes and circumstances are creating the image. But we don't believe that really there's a shark swimming in the theater. Okay, so that's a really, really good example for us, which wouldn't work for in Tibet, because they don't have that they don't have that experience, where we can have that experience. Okay, so that's all. Just chit-chat that. So that concludes today. But again, because we are accumulating karma, because we participated, let's dedicate it. And so if you think of it in terms of that, that I made the time this morning, whether I drove in my car to get to where my computer was or whatever, I took that effort and energy. So I dedicate that, and then the participation in the class and everything. And I dedicate all of that to have a more enlightened life. And that is my offering for the benefit of all. In many ways, you can think of it, your dedication is the accumulation of something that you've accomplished an activity, and then you give it away, which is for the benefit of all. It's a nice way to think about it. So that concludes class. Thank you very much, Lou and Patrick and Medina and Phyllis and such. Big hugs, take good care. And next week, we will actually get to Ganges Mahamudra. But the 6 examples will work really well with everything we've just done.